Great to have you on today's edition of your favorite afternoon on Sundays Press Hour. The English primatologist and anthropologist Lady Jane Morris Goodall said, I quote her, "Change happens by listening and then starting a dialogue with the people who are doing something you don't believe is right." End of quotes. And I'm going to take another quote. We're talking peace today. The South African Bishop of Blessed Memory, Desmond Tutu, whose contribution helped end apartheid, said, if you want peace, talk to your friends, then talk to your enemies. And with the first that I quoted, we're talking about the Lady Jane. She helped to protect the chimpanzees of Tanzania, having the largest protected species today, not only in Africa, but in the world. And talking about peace, Bishop Desmond Tutu of South Africa, we know his contribution to end the apartheid regime that has been described as one of the inhuman, discriminatory activity of human history. Now, the topic we have today is path to peace, is change of narrative possible in Cameroon. Of course, you know we are living a period of crisis. We are at war. And this week was a week of peace that culminated on the 22nd of September to several kinds of celebrations. That's why we have that as our topic on Press Hour today. And to talk about this very important subject, issue that concerns all of us in Cameroon and around the world, we have Prudence Nucha Isoi Lubish. She is a peace advocate and member of the Cameroon Women's Peace Platform. We are glad to have you on our set today, Madam Prudence.
Thank you, Kilian. It is an honor for us to be here this afternoon. Yes,
and I have another person who is live for now, especially with what we have in Cameroon, the crisis, the war that we have in the country, is Honorable Henry Francis. Honorable Henry Francis is the coordinator of Northwest Southwest Peace Movement for Cessation of Fire. We're glad to have you today on our set, Honorable, and we hope you're going to tell us how far you have gone with the movement.
Thank you. It's my pleasure being with you, and I'll be happy to tell you what I think we have been reflecting on.
You have a great task ahead because your movement is for cessation of fire, and we have not had that cessation of fire now for 6 years.
Anyway, yeah.
Okay, so just going to tell our viewers why it is that way. We have with us two journalists. We have Lucas Teneng-Chefo, who is publisher and editor-in-chief of the Reporter newspaper. Lucas, it's always our honor to have you on our set.
The honor is always shared, Kilian, especially when we know that we are going to say things, we may talk about things that can help build our nation. So we always take the privilege to come, and we're always honored to be on set.
Charles Ibuni is one of our sincere TV international affairs journalists. He does so much for Cameroon and for the international community. You are witness that he does so much. Charles Ibuni, we are glad to have you to enlighten us on some of the things that could help bring peace to Cameroon.
Shukran. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much, Kilian. Always a pleasure to be on Press Hour.
Thank you very much, and we expect we have echoes that we're going to have a special viewer of Press Hour today, Tumfo Barrister Neko Hali. We're going to try to connect with him in the littoral region, and if he comes on, you also know that he is a peace crusader. He has dedicated his life for peace. That is what we're going to be talking about today on Press Hour. Ladies and gentlemen, you cannot just budge a muzzle. First things first, what the press said in the past week is the subject that we have today, reviewed for us by Emanuela Vemnui. Emanuela?
The abduction and burning down of the Catholic Church in Chang village in Manu division got the press on the beat. It is a sacrilege in the eye of the Eden as 5 priests, a nun and 2 lay faithful are whisked away by unknown gunmen. And immediately Bishop Aloysius Fondong says Catholic Christians turned Ambazonian fighters responsible for the abominable act in the Guardian Post. Municipal Updates writes Amba attack on Mamfe Diocese not in God's name, and in no time the gunmen demand 30 million CFA francs church offering to free the kidnapped priest and others in Newswatch. But Archbishop Andrew Nkeya of the Bamenda Ecclesiastical Province says church won't pay a dime for ransom in the post-weekender. The Herald Tribune reports that despite the burning of the church, Holy Communion was removed from the ashes untouched. The 5 kidnapped priests and others still in captivity in Cameroon Insider. Happening at a time government rubbishes much heralded Swiss mediation in the Eden newspaper, leaving separatists disappointed in the horizon. Then there is weeping by self-proclaimed Amber leaders as multi-million Swiss deal collapses in the Chronicle Times. Nursing mother and widow are killed in Andeg military raid in the horizon, and Defense Minister orders arrest of the 3 soldiers for shooting 2 women to death in the Guardian Post. In the voice of the Voice Weekender, Andeg Mayor pushes for tougher sanctions on killers of the 2 women, and the soldiers remain detained over the death of 2 civilians in Andeg in Cameroon Insider. Municipal Updates thinks the Northwest and Southwest should drop guns and embrace peace. Then France appoints new ambassador to Cameroon in the horizon. The Guardian Post says Macron appoints Army General as ambassador to Cameroon. Then the Post wants to know if France upholding war option in Cameroon with this new appointment. Sopecam then gets ISO certification at last in Cameroon Insider. Cameroon Tribune says with this new document in the pocket, the Cameroon News and Publishing Corporation's activities are henceforth aligned to international standards. The initiative to tackle violence in schools engaged by Secondary Education Minister in the Guardian Post. The Babaju Bamenda Road project that gets the funds at last in Cameroon Insider. The tax exemption said to account for 2.5% of Cameroon's gross domestic product in the horizon, and the 91 billion francs for Kribi Port area and Yaoundé drainage system in the Guardian Post also form stories reported by the papers this week. Let's now end our press review with this story in Cameroon Insider, where Cameroon has been nominated 9 times for the All-African Musical Awards 2022. The annual prestigious musical awards, better known as AFRIMA, has as nominees Venuitina, Blanche Bailey, Tenor Rhythms Asaba, and a host of others in several categories. Fans are expected to start voting for their favorite artist by September 25, with the award ceremony proper scheduled from the 8th to the 11th of December 2022. Until I come your way again, this is your Hour with the Press.
Thank you very much, Emanuela Vemni. We're looking forward to having you next week, Sunday, for another edition of Press Hour. And we know, you also know that our viewers are always there to watch and listen to Press Review, of which you are the person leading that slot. Now, our topic again for some of you who are just joining us, Path to Peace, is change of narrative. That is especially in Cameroon. Of course, why not? Around the world, possible. Given that what happens around the world now concerning peace, we have more war, more crisis, more conflicts than we have peace. The oasis of peace, the areas we consider that are even losing the little water that we had. Now to Cameroon. We had the World Peace Day on September 22, and we had not so many activities in Cameroon, maybe in other parts of the world. But we had women. The Cameroon Women's Peace Platform, who had a summit in Yaoundé. We have one of them here. We're going to start with you. Should we cry for peace, or we should commemorate or even celebrate the little peace that we have? Madame Prudence Nucha.
Thank you, Kilian, for this very, very important question on whether we should cry for peace or we should commemorate. With the 41st edition of the International Day of Peace, we thought it wise to bring our women who belong to the Cameroon Women's Peace Platform, which is a constellation of over 77 women, organizations, civil society organizations, to organize what we call a simulation for negotiation in Cameroon. That took place from the 17th to the 21st to the 22nd of September. This was in view for us to be able to reflect and equally view how the negotiation process on what is happening in the 10 regions of Cameroon. You know, we have 3 conflict areas, that is the southwest and northwest. We have the east region, and we equally have the far north, to simulate how we can have possibilities on solving this ongoing crisis that has been plaguing our nation. So we feel like the time to cry has passed. It's time for action. We need to go to the field and do concrete actions that is going to bring concrete solution and sustainable solutions to this conflict. People have cried, people have mourned. As we are talking, people are dying. So should we keep crying? We need to pass to the level of action, and the action needs to be politically real so that we can be able to resolve this conflict on the ground.
Your network, your platform, your peace platform, for how long has it existed in Cameroon?
The Peace Platform is already 1 year old, concretely 1 year old, but it's a platform where we have women from different organizations, from different networks. They have been moving, you know, in their different civil society structures within the 10 regions of Cameroon. So we have women representatives from the grassroots regions, women civil society, women in every aspect of the civil society space. So we have been existing as a constellation, you know, as a united front for 1 year now, and we keep moving in the different activities.
Within this 1 year, can we have some of the successes that you have scored on the ground in Cameroon especially?
Okay, talking about the successes that we have scored, you know, the reality on the field is that in the past, most of us as civil society activists, especially women, we used to move in dispersed rounds. We used to have great activities done at different levels, but we thought it wise, you know, with the 1325 resolution on women, peace and security and the 2250 resolution on youth, peace and security, we said it is vital of the United Nations, I mean to say, yeah. It is vital for both women and young women who are within Cameroon to unite their forces so that they can make a great impact, especially in relation to this conflict. In Liberia, we have seen how women came together, and we cannot be an exception within Cameroon because we are the highest people who bear the brunt. If you see those who are affected, the women have their children raped, the girls are being raped on the field, they have their husband being killed. All of you are our sons, you are our brothers. So you can imagine the burden that the women carry. Some at the beginning of the crisis, so some women digging the graves in order for them to bury their loved ones, and that is an abomination and a taboo in our cultural practices. So we said we cannot remain on, you know, silence. That's why we came together, and so far we've organized the first Women Peace Convention that was last year around the same period, and the idea for that was to be able to create that awareness in the mind of all the women that we need to do something. Whether you are French speaking, English speaking, Grafi man, Southwestern, Sawa woman, or whatever, you have to add your voice on this particular trend that is moving, because the guns does not know the color or the persons that are shooting. So when they shoot a gun, it can go on your brother, your sister, your husband, your nephew. So all of us need to be on deck in order for us to look for a possible solution. So after that, we went to Boya and we did what we call, you know, a kind of like restitution of what has happened. So where we invited the local grassroots women within the Boya municipalities and all of that, in Limbe especially, and they came together and we had to equally sensitize the women. We went to some schools where we had to sensitize the young girls about the need for them to add their voice in the peace process. After we had another outing at the level of the parliamentary for advocacy.
Wow. Okay, so it means you have so many things done on the ground.
Of course.
I'm going to ask you, as the program rules, on whether you've had attempts, you've had the opportunity to meet the belligerents, especially the armed members of the armed group. I'm going to ask you that as we move on, because you have to talk to those people. Look for a way to talk to them. We go around the table. I turn to you, Honorable Inwi Francis. You are the coordinator of the Northwest Southwest movement, peace movement for cessation of violence, and we still have violence. What's happening? What are you doing?
Kilian, is a difficult assignment that we actually engage ourselves in at the beginning of this conflict. And coming together as elite from the two regions and from various backgrounds, we thought we could have a say because many of our members are on the ground and some are in the diaspora, and it's in fact a huge group. What we face as challenges after making our movements to the regions. Now we're in the Northwest, we had days in the Northwest with various actors. In the Southwest we had same, and if you go even around there you still see our flyers in many structures that we place them, calling for peace and cessation of violence. The challenge there is...
Do we need to see you or your flyers?
I said we went down, and then, before putting the flyers. And during our period down, we had interactions with various actors. At that moment, it was difficult to meet face-to-face with the armed groups. But I think on the phone, you could talk to people. Mm-hmm. Some, at the beginning, were very harsh. They talk without respect. But of recent, when we talk to them, now you see that there's some change. Somebody start talking to you and calling you daddy. But before they will call you, they'll intimidate you and tell you, give you instructions.
What do you tell them? Since you talk to them, what exactly do you tell them?
Yeah, when you get to them, the only thing is what? Don't you think you're afraid of your life? The fight you are fighting for these years, what are the outcomes? How many of your friends have died? Don't you think we can talk? Lay down your guns and follow the structures that government has created. If you don't want, some will even tell you, I'm not ready to go to DDR. I want to come out and free myself. And then we pave the way using the administration and the security services in some of the areas that we can. Because for me, I can do that in my area, Widikum. Somebody should do that in his area from Kumbu. Everybody should do that in his own backyard. I know how to talk to my own people because I know our character, I know their background, I know their names, I know their parents. So if I'm talking to you, I'm talking to somebody that I know their family. And as such, the communication is not as harsh as it used to be. Even some of us in the beginning became also annoyed because somebody will not destroy your property and you start talking and laughing with him. You have the right to also fight back. But as time has gone...
Exactly, we started this program by quoting Bishop of Blessed Memory, Desmond Tutu, who said, if you want peace, talk to your friends, but also talk to your enemies.
Exactly. So we've been talking to them, and I think as at now, majority of them are a bit calm the way they talk. They can understand a bit, and they have gradually been coming out. If I take the scenario of where I come from, in Widikum for now, we'll say we don't have much amber. The few guys that are in the villages, there are guys that we knew before the crisis who used to smoke hams and do funny things around the place, are the same guys moving around now. But I think they have legalized stealing and kidnapping where the population still stays with fear. So to implant ourselves on the ground...
Who has legalized? Nobody can legalize stealing. But
to them, they have taken that as a legal something now, because kidnapping you in broad daylight with no reaction from the population is like legal stealing.
Okay.
Yeah, so the group is still working, and we continue working and only sharing ideas because there's nothing you can actually do.
You have to do more than that, because when we want to stop the war, we have to stop the war. There's nothing like I'm just contributing. We have to make sure we have results. And on the heels of what you have said, I want to pay special tribute to late Chief Norbert Mbile, with whom you started that movement.
Yeah.
I hope you, going for his sake, carry that to a logical and successful end. Charles, you know so much about what's happening with the links. Cameroon, those are fighting in Cameroon and their commanders in the diaspora. You know what the link they have is not only here. Now, talking about peace, what's your take in view of letting us enjoy peace in Cameroon?
Killian, I think that you started by saying that it is time for us to change the narrative.
Yes.
And one of the ways for us to change the narrative, and I go straight to what my sister was saying a while ago. Last week, we buried Queen Elizabeth II. She spent 70 years on the throne as head of state. And in all those 70 years, she never declared war to any country. For those who don't know, you don't declare war in the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland without the approval of the monarch. This is a lady who spent 70 years on the throne as head of state, as queen, as a monarch, but did not declare war to any person by passing. Let me say that the wars in Iraq, in Afghanistan by Tony Blair, Gordon Brown, or others, all those were illegal wars. So what I am just trying to say is that the fact that you have powers doesn't necessarily mean you must use all those powers for personal or political gains or territorial extension. What, like you said, it is time for us to change the narrative. And one of the elements to change the narrative is that the fact that you have powers, you have been given power to declare war, to do any kind of thing by constitutional merits, equally entails that you should reason, you should see the consequences of using the powers you have. That is the first element. The second element, you talk of us enjoying peace in the country, and
you used to enjoy peace.
Yeah, and in relation to maybe a portion of our diaspora, is that a portion of our diaspora should not forget that one of the best ways to enjoy peace in the world is by respecting the customs and traditions of any community which is established. In the northwest and southwest, and to an extent in the far north region of the country, there has been a blatant disrespect of the customs and traditions which have been established by a portion of diaspora based abroad that comes from this area. I challenge any of them. They are living in the UK. They are living in the US. And let me even limit myself to the Cameroonian diaspora in the UK. I hope everybody saw the best of British tradition during the Queen's funeral. Nobody ever saw the color of the coffin of the Queen. Nobody ever saw the clothes of the dressing of the Queen's mortal remains, because you are forbidden to do that. They did not even announce on social media that the Queen has died because they must wait for the palace. It is dangerous for our diaspora to incite children to disrespect the son of Saul, capture him, expose him, humiliate him. That builds an atmosphere of anger to those attached to that tradition.
As we speak, we still have one phone whose whereabouts is not accounted.
How do you on planet Earth, an indigent from the northwest, attack, arrest, imprison the son of Saul, who refused to shake hands with the Queen of England in 1956 by the customs and traditions of the people of Saul?
Because he feels that authority in him.
That authority. How on earth do you humiliate the corpse of Cardinal Tumi like they did? These are things that build anger on the people. I haven't said that about the diaspora. The administration equally has a part to play. And this is where I come in quickly by saying that.
Briefly, we're going to come to that point.
The administration, in changing the dynamics of changing the approach to peace, should equally look at what is happening around the world when we have a situation. And I learned in Rwanda, after the 1994 genocide, the society saw that insults made people to conceive hate speech and delivered a discourse which led to the genocide. In simple words, it is not only sufficient to pass the law on hate speech. In Rwanda, it is forbidden to insult somebody.
You are punished.
Yes, you are punished.
Yes, there are sanctions.
And sanctioned. Yes. I believe that it is time for Cameroon to look at what has happened in the northwest and southwest, the far north, see the language that had been used, and craft a law that punishes insults in this country.
Thank you. Hate speech, we're going to make sure that we stamp that out of our speech. Lucas, we should not even talk of crying again. We have to look for a way out, change the narrative of getting peace in Cameroon.
Yeah, Kilian, you see,
how do we do that?
We have to first of all define peace. What is peace? Peace is the absence of disorder, some tranquility. It is the absence of war. Or if there is war, the end of war. And peace does not mean absence of conflict. It means the resolution of conflict through peaceful means. If we define peace like that, we mean we have a conflict now. How do we resolve it? We need to change the narrative, because for 6 years we've had a narrative. We've been holding peace conferences. Government has created structures here and there to calm down the war. It has not worked. So what do? We need to change the narrative. How do we change the narrative? She was just talking about bringing people together to talk with them. The other day I got so confused when communities now begin to hold peace conferences out of their own community. You'd ask Honorable whether they need to see him only feel, or they need to see flyers. That pricked my mind. You have to go down. And he came up saying, you need to talk to the people. You came up quoting Desmond Tutu. You need to talk to your friends and you need to talk to your enemy. We had the Major National Dialogue. Major National Dialogue, that was a platform that we thought we were going to talk to the people. But we did not talk to the right people. Because if we don't talk to the right people, keeping the actors of any conflict out of the dialogue table is a big mistake.
Who are the right people?
I mean, actors.
They were all invited.
They did not come.
Some of them came.
Some came.
Some
came. But I think if we need to push and change the dynamic, our political elite need to go back to their base.
And we are going to come back to the political elite. That is very important. And other groups who are stakeholders, who are vote holders in those communities that are affected by what we have, crisis, war, and the rest. And I am told that we have someone whose life has been dedicated to peace crusading in Cameroon and around the world. It is Tumfor Barrister Neko Hali. And what we're going to ask him is, what is your appreciation, first of all, of peace in Cameroon and around the world during this week? I want to say dedicated for commemoration of peace around the world. We're happy to have you on our program.
Thank you, Kilian, for inviting me.
Yes, Tumfor, your appreciation?
I'm speaking with pain in my heart. I'm really frustrated when I see what is happening in the whole world, including Africa. To be very honest with you, peace, which is the greatest asset that a human being should have, does not exist because of greed, because of discrimination, because of looting and plundering, because of corruption, bribery, because of hate speech, because of tribalism. In fact, discrimination in all its forms, moral decadence, all of these vices, deviant behaviors can never allow peace to sustain or to be sustained. I am disappointed with structures that are supposed to handle the violence in the world. I'm talking about the United Nations Security Council. I'm talking about the European Union and their Security Council. And they definitely should have a structure that takes care of violence. I'm talking about the African Union. What are they doing? What are they doing? So you can understand my frustration that, you know, it's true that we have pockets of, you know, few people who are struggling to restore peace. But how many of them are there? And who cares? I think some persons should be exploiting the fact that violence, effervescence, conflict exists in the world. They are making their money, which I've usually called blood money, and they're using, to be very honest with you, the situation for their economic, their political ventures. You can understand how I feel. I am disturbed, I'm devastated, I'm crushed and smashed by what I see all over the world. Look at what is happening all over the world. All over the world. It's not good. God did not create the world to go through all of this. He created the world for love. He created the world for harmony, for peace, for the rule of law to operate, for people to be patriotic. He created a world where man will defend man. Man will be each other's keeper.
And two for Barrister Nico Halley, let me ask you this question. We have had several platforms to negotiate dialogue, to have dialogue and go towards the end of the crisis that we have in Cameroon, with a high point in 2019, that's the major national dialogue. How do we advance the peace process already on course, according to you?
In my peace crusading over 30 years, I have always done that on the platform of love, justice, transparency, accountability, truth, integrity, dignity, and honor, patriotism, and the fear of the Lord, which is the beginning of wisdom. All of that I've cited, they constitute what we call the platform of core moral values that make for peace to live. So my peace crusading, and I thought that other structures going for peace crusading should have as a platform these core moral values. Because unless the Lord builds the house, those who build it labor in vain. That is Psalm 127. And also, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. The fear of the Lord means all of those moral and spiritual values that I've mentioned, which we have thrown to the dogs. We have thrown to the dogs. The fear of the Lord, which is the beginning of wisdom, is found in Proverbs 1:7 or Proverbs 9:10. We now think of the fear of money, of position, of property, of course, which can never be of any help to human beings. It can never be the beginning of wisdom. The Frenchman says, la crainte de Dieu, c'est le commencement de la sagesse. Let us go back to the drawing board.
The one last question for you, please, Antunfor. Be brief with this one. You have dedicated your life to peace. We just want to know from you briefly, what are the landmarks that you have for having advanced the process for peace in Cameroon, and are you satisfied that your country, despite those efforts, is still in crisis?
I think that if there's one Cameroonian, I'm sure you know, I'm sure that every honest Cameroonian would say it, that is, there's one guy, one person in Cameroon who has sacrificed his resources, his life, his pleasures, you know, and run risk crusading peace. It's Nico Halley. It's Nico Halley I've reconciled traditional rulers, villages, lawyers, people in the civil society, pastors, Christians. When I did elections 7 years in the Northwest region, there were no reruns because I made sure that everybody played by the rules. I made sure that there was transparency. The rule of law was respected by all and sundry. So that is how you can handle, all these problems, conflicts that have invaded us and have taken us.
Yes, thank you very much, Ntumfo and Barrister Nico Hali. We see what we've been doing, but since the war is still raging on, we just want to push you on to continue with the peace crusading. I come back to you, Prudence Nucha. You just ended a kind of summit of simulation to see how you can end the crisis in Cameroon, where we have in the far north, in the east, especially in the northwest and southwest. I think with focus on northwest and southwest. I didn't see so many men that you invited for that your simulation. Are you going to make it a women affair when you are calling for inclusiveness?
Okay, thank you very much once again, Killian. We've said, like I said before, it's a time for women to try their own role. So it's not an issue of feminists or an issue of sexists here. It's an issue of women leading the process as well. They can give the women the chance to lead this process. We don't consider the stakeholders of the war as maybe enemies and whatsoever, because all of them are children. We are mothers, and we feel like if the mothers take the lead, when your mother speaks to you, I think you can appease your heart, even if you're angry in any manner. The problem with the men, they have a certain approach, it's force, but the women touch their heart when they go to the field. And we feel like if they give this opportunity, let's give the chance to women to lead this negotiation process, and I'm sure we are going to have a different results. Most of the time, even after the national dialogue, we see women complain because we did not see them in the different commissions the way they ought to be.
No, in the education, I think it was headed by women. I know about Dorothy Ujoma, who was there. I know that professor. I know about Nalova Lyonga, whom I interviewed during that time.
We equally need that women of the grassroots, women in the civil society space. The dialogue of someone who is a bit politically inclined may be different because the population no longer trusts a political elite. That is the truth.
Yes,
that we should be told.
Prudence, this is the question I'm asking you, and I think some other people share this question. We have guns rattling.
Sure.
We have to treat the guns first before we go for negotiation or peace.
Of course, I think negotiation has.
So are you not placing the cart?
They have different steps. There are many women within our platform who have done backdoor diplomacy.
Okay.
They have done a lot of talks in the background, and just that there are certain things we can't come and tell in the public. The things we do in the background, even for us to bring 1,500 women, there was a lot of negotiation in the backdoor. Some of women were sent to be able to do those type of diplomacy, to talk to the boys, to talk to the different parties, so that they understand the stake and why they should permit the women to lead their voice and to continue the message of peace, because
they're still raging on. That's why I actually asked whether you're talking to them and they're listening to you.
Yeah, of course.
So just to say something, Killian, you said of changing the narrative if it is possible, so that the guns should stop, then we can talk.
Yeah.
I think one of the best ways for us to walk out of the guns today, and I said this on the radio about 2 years ago, is first, all the frontline leaders of the conflict, particularly in the northwest and southwest, owe an apology to the people to say that we misled you, whether they are on the government side or they were from the civil society organizations, those who read the speeches that there will be no school, there will be nothing, they have to apologize that we misled you guys. We are sorry for what we did. I think since some of the locals still owe allegiance to them, it is the best way to say we are sorry we misled you people based on some falsehood, because whether you like it or not, 98% of what transpired in the Northwest and Southwest leading us where we are today was based on lies. And I will always repeat, was based on lies, void of any historical facts, void of any socio-economic facts and whatsoever. The moment those people apologize, the owners of the guns they gave the means are going to withdraw. The other thing that the government needs to do, because I've heard of too much of Anglo-Saxon tradition. Yes, if we want to uphold the Anglo-Saxon tradition, we should equally know that in the Anglo-Saxon tradition, when you mislead a community, when you tell lies, they can withdraw your certificates from the university. The universities that gave you the certificates can withdraw them because you told lies that brought a society to knees and led to chaos. If they can withdraw the certificates of presidents like Mugabe, they can withdraw certificates of those who led chaos in the Northwest and Southwest, for them to know that the Anglo-Saxon tradition is equally being applied now.
Charles.
Yes.
We are told that it is very difficult to sustain a lie. They are sustaining their lie, according to you.
Yes.
So what makes it possible for them to sustain their lie?
Because some of us have seen it as the best way to enrich ourselves through the multiplication of civil society organizations where people have created their bank accounts, like in Afghanistan, like in Syria, like in Lebanon. The whole truth of the matter is that people thought that they were going to create a movement that was going to mainstay in society and transform itself into a political agenda, like what happened in Lebanon. That has not worked. Agenda setting has not worked. So the best way for them to be alive, for us to be alive, because we are in the same community, is to apologize, and then we forgive them and we move forward. It is as possible as that. We can't continue with lies telling.
Well, lies telling.
I mean, lies telling from all the segments of those who are involved.
Now, Charles, the highest authority of this country admitted that those who started this thing, they had founded grievances. You cannot come here and
I am
say
sure,
they didn't have.
I am sure, and this is where even us journalists will make mistake. They had profound and accepted professional grievances. They didn't say that their political grievances were genuine. The speech of the President of the Republic was very clear. Les revendications corporatistes ont été claires. Il n'a pas dit political revendications were correct.
You have a reaction to this?
Yeah, Kilian, the issue is that we don't need to go back to say who went wrong where and when.
But an apology is needed.
What we need now is how do we end the mayhem that we are into now? And we are looking for means, because most of those guys have taken up guns. Some of them were school dropouts, and that's the only means they are living. They're using to live. So you need to work their conscience. You need to work their psyche. You need to talk to them, their psyche. You need to make them feel important. So a genuine peace process has to identify and enumerate the actors. When you identify and enumerate the actors, you look at genuinely at their grievances, you look genuinely at their aspirations, and we see how we can reach them.
Lucas, one second. Do you people know why I said people should apologize? Somebody came on, excuse me, let me say it so that I don't want to live here and misunderstood. Somebody came on the airwaves and said on camera, world cameras, that no child should go to school. And at the end of the day, he flies his own child to go and study abroad. If education is not good, then all of us, our children should not go to school. So you shouldn't mislead others by creating an atmosphere of poverty and insecurity here for children not to go to school in Cameroon. Because I come from one of the poorest families on planet Earth. I'm not the child of a minister to be flown in a plane to go and study abroad. And those people need to apologize for depriving us from poor background the possibility of going to school.
We accepted that. But Honorable has been saying that the language is to change. Madame Nucha Florence also said in their simulation platform is not to go frontal, is to talk even to their enemies. Honorable.
I did not.
The same principle
yeah,
says that naming and shaming.
Okay.
Naming and shaming is a principle of
okay,
of conflict resolution.
It's okay, Charles.
Yeah,
Let
naming and shaming might be a principle, but
Yes.
if we have the right approach and then we use the wrong methods, we might not arrive. at
Two
our
wrongs
goal.
I
can
agree with
never
you.
make it right.
Okay,
Yes,
so
we'll
we
never
never
arrive-
make
we'll never
it right.
arrive- we'll never
So-
arrive our goal. Our goal now is, because what I have realized, like Honorable was saying, the old guard, let me use it. It might be pejorative, but the old guard is always conservative. Now, most of those guys who are taking up guns are young people. They are young people, and they want to change the reality. So how do we talk with them? They have to create their own reality. They want to live. So when you're going to them, you don't go to them with prefabricated ideas you have to push through them. You have to listen to them, because the first thing of diagnosis or solving a problem is to diagnose it. If you don't diagnose the problem, you can never solve it. We have diagnosed their problem. Then now, let me say, government has diagnosed their problem. Government has to change. The same faces have been going to talk to them. They have to change those faces. Let other people, let children, let the young people who are involved, the young people go and talk to their friends. They might listen to them.
But,
Let
yes,
the women
yes,
too-
go ahead.
Thank you very much,
ahead.
Kilian. It's true. Like I said before, there is the United Nations Security Council Resolution 2250, which gives that mandate to young people to be able to resolve conflict, to mediate, because in the past, the narrative you're putting was that young people are the people holding the guns and all of that. It's true, it's still happening. But we always ask ourselves the question, who are those who finance those young people? They don't have, some of them don't have work. And that the other people who in the background with their political agenda still give the money to those young people.
Yes.
So there is a need for us to analyze, to also find those older people who are sponsoring those young guys with the guns and all of that. And what is their political agenda? If we don't do that, we are missing the target.
Absolutely.
We want to give a role to other young people. I'm a youth as well. I may be a young person, but a human here. But then, you don't give us that task while you know that you are the real cause of the problem. We may want to go to speak to our parents. They may look at us as a model, even like Charles, he's a model to many young persons. But then, have you post up funding those young people from the back? Because you are the ones who create the divide and the root in the background.
Very
and
good
it's a real
point.
problem.
Okay.
Honorable,
Yeah.
she is leading us to the elite, because those are the leaders, and so much blame. Barrister Ntumfo, Barrister Nikohali also raised that point. You are an elite. What are you elite? You have so much of this blame. Don't you think so?
Yeah, it's normal to oversub the blame, to push the blame on the elite, because even like politicians, when you are an icon in an area, let's say as a member of parliament of a particular place, everybody looks up onto you. And in terms of good things, they applaud, And when it is bad, everybody turn their arms against you for maybe other reasons. I think as elite, most of the elites did what they could do in their various areas to bring.
When you put it in the
But
past
now,
tense, I
yeah.
am not happy.
No.
It means that you
they're
have
still
let
doing
it.
No, and they are still doing it. Like I said, we communicate.
Okay.
And the manner of communication, just like he was saying, there is the approach that you have to use to talk to these guys. We don't need that master approach to come and sit, on a high table and they sit down there and you give instructions. It's not again like that. And you know that you are talking to an enemy, somebody who doesn't want to even see you. And when you come, the bossy attitude, I'm telling you, they'll go out of the door the way they came. And now, the best approach, like Madam just said there, if the elite can also organize themselves, just like Kadatumi
They should organize themselves.
Like Kadatumi did sometimes and send out peace caravans. I think I led the caravan to Momo Division. Most of you saw it, where I pulled out the population in the market. They came. Some of those boys came there and they told me those are them. And I told somebody, go and tell them to wait for me in that off license. And they obeyed and went there. These guys had pistolets.
Good.
But when I left, I mounted the bike and then moved around the market and got to where they were drinking. Say, Petifre, how are you? And then the way they spoke was different. Yes, Graham. The approach.
Okay.
So
yes, the approach.
Yes,
we have to.
matters.
That's
And
why
now,
we have to change the narrative.
And now to change these narratives as well,
Yes.
we should have teams of at least women can lead us into the regional teams, divisional, sub-divisional, and even village small structures where we involve everybody. Talk in your village to those boys.
Yes.
Let's see what will come out. Then after that, it goes to the division. It goes to the region, And then
are you talking about new groups or the elite? Because the elite, most of them, we have accused them that they are not even accepted by the people.
The elite have been operating sometimes using politics, party politics.
So we should change that narrative.
We should change that narrative.
Thank you.
Party politics aside.
Thank you.
And we go out as elite of a region.
Thank you.
CPDM, SDF, everybody moving together.
Thank you.
To see how we can talk.
Thank you.
Not using the names of parties.
Honorable, you've just said what was in my mind, because the issue that the elite, when they say elite, more often than not look at the political elite, but the elite, there are people, even an elite is somebody who can sponsor development, who can at least is proactive about development of his area. And you see, what is happening, what is obtaining is that the elite have always been aloof and only comes in for political gains, mostly political elite, and comes in for political gains. Look at what is obtaining in Norway now. Norway and Southwest, most of the elected officials are not on seat. They are either in the metropolis, enjoying themselves, using the money. And how do you expect somebody who is in the village?
Yes, I think, Charles, just this. We have to redefine who is an elite, and then tack it to what we know as a leader. Which means a leader is not about your position, it's not about your political standing, it's not about your social standing, it's about influence, character, whether you can influence the people in society. Now, we continue to talk about the change of narrative, and let us see what the Women's Summit, what they are proposing. No, it will not escape. I will come back to you.
Okay.
What these women who met in Yaoundé within the framework of the World Peace Day, how do they intend to change the narrative? Let's watch this.
When we have occasions like this women's conference that is centered on looking at how the conflicting parties in Cameroon can actually negotiate for us to have a peaceful resolution at the end, I think that it is very important for the people even in the Northwest, especially the women who are bearing the brunt of the crisis, and especially for the same women who have made several attempts like going to the streets. They were the ones who went to the streets to raise awareness that there was something very wrong. They are the ones who have been losing their children, losing their farms, losing their husbands, losing their properties, and also losing their entire livelihood. With such a convention, it should give a gleam of hope to the women in the Northwest, given that we are here from the Northwest to talk on their behalf. We are here to talk the misery, what is happening. So we are here to practice negotiations. We are merely doing role play. We are calling on the attention of the government and the warring factions, and the non-state armed groups, both at home and abroad, to realize that it is possible for them to sit and talk.
It can change the narrative because as we talk here, government representatives are here, representatives of non-state art groups are following our live stream, international community and ambassadors are here, so women can build bridges in between all these actors. Women can connect all these actors because they are the mothers of everyone, they are the wives and sisters of everyone. So may it be soldiers, may it be military, may it be non-state armed groups, women can bring all these people together.
We should all make efforts. As the government is trying to make efforts, our brothers also should also make efforts. That is why you see we have all the parties here present, us representing or playing the role of these actors that are concerned with the crisis.
We took this situation in the East region, we took the situation of the extreme north and what is prevailing in the Northwest and Southwest regions. We are going to simulate all the stakeholders. We think that dialogue should be inclusive. It should be genuine. When you want to discuss peace, you are building peace, you don't talk with your friends, you talk even with those you consider your enemies. We give our brothers names and whatever is the reason behind their anger, like citizens of the same country, we need to sit around the same table and negotiate that peace, sustainable peace. Our children need peace to go back to school. We need peace for economic development. We need peace for any other thing to prevail in this country. So that's why women are simulating a negotiation. After this, we have a charter on negotiations that we've drawn, and that's what we're going to table to all the stakeholders. We are negotiating with the different stakeholders towards another dialogue, because women think that the grand national or the major national dialogue was the beginning. We recommend a continuum of dialogue until we have the sustainable peace that we all dream of.
Wow, we all watch these ladies and what they are planning to do to bring peace back to Cameroon. Cameroon as a whole, north, east, northwest, and southwest. Charles, I promised you, you have 1 minute to give your point.
Absolutely, and I'm very glad to hear what they have said. What I wanted to say is that another way of changing the narrative and making it possible is that collectively we need to work on perception. We need to change the way we think, the way we thought, and the way we continue to think about others. We need to understand that a dressing does not actually reflect what another person is. There are people, when they see me dressed like this, the other day I was in a bank where I go every day. 1 minute. Let me explain what I'm saying to tie into the northwest and southwest.
Charles,
I have to explain,
Charles,
because if I don't explain,
I know. See, look at when you do, Charles. Look at, if you do a time check, we are
What
1.5.
we are trying to say is that-
Listen first. If you do a time check, you will see that we are 1 minute to the end of the program.
Oh, wow.
Just 1 minute, so we cannot listen to you to the end. Can you conclude?
Yes.
perception is very important to change our public relations attitude. We shouldn't conclude people based on their color, dressing, or where they come from. Address every human being as an image of God.
Thank you very much, Honorable.
Yes, I think to change the dynamics from the other side, we're not talking to this the non-state actors. We also have the white-collar non-state actors in the cities,
Yes.
which we also need to talk to them. There are people we know from every area. You should know from you know your elite.
Yes.
That is it. Coming to the side of the government, there's also a way to implant more security in the field. Why? Creating more administrative units. We can start with districts in some areas that are difficult, subdivisions, divisions, and even regions in the conflict regions in this country.
Yes.
Also,
thank you.
Implementation of the decentralization
Should be effective.
Really very.
Thank you very much. Lucas, 30 seconds.
We should do a paradigm shift. The same old faces that have been talking to the same people should give way for new actors like this, women who have come together to emerge, and maybe the narrative will change. Because what I'm saying is this: some of those who are sent to go and preach peace are those who have caused,
and they continue to cause the
and they continue to cause. So if they want to change,
thank you. We've heard that. Yes,
Like, if we are truthful to ourselves, we know one of the main cause of this issue is governance problem, and we should be able to resolve our governance problems. And to our other non-state actors, if you want justice, you should be able to respect human rights. We should be able to respect the human right of every citizen, be it for children, women, boys, whosoever is within the community. And then you will have the justice that you need. If you destroy the human right of others by saying children should not go to school, then don't expect that you are just by what you're doing. So let's resolve the problem of governance in our country. Let's resolve the problem of basic human right of our population. And then we are sure that we will be moving towards the right path of negotiation and mediation for this conflict.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your time. You just listened there to Prudence Nucha Isoy Lubich, who is a peace advocate, social activist, if you like, member of Cameroon Women's Peace Platform. You also had Honorable Engwe Francis, who is the coordinator of the Northwest Southwest Peace Movement for Cessation of Power. You had Lucas Denning, who is the publisher and editor-in-chief of the Reporter newspaper, and our own Charles Ibune, who is an international affairs journalist. If you want to watch this program, a full rebroadcast, just connect to CRTV on Monday at 2:30. Our webpage is CRTV web Facebook. Then you have a soft copy of this program. Thank you once again for your attention. Have a good day.